Today's video is top 10 pantry staples for wartime cooking. All the ingredients you need to cook from wartime cookbooks to put good nutritious food on the table at a minimal cost. It costs pennies. So if you're interested in that, do stick around for today's video, and that's what's coming up in a minute. Hi everyone, welcome back to Wildwood Cottage and welcome back to Wales. Hope you're all doing well. Today we are starting a brand new series. I decided I wanted to do a top 10 pantry staples series. It's going to run for 9 weeks. We are going to be having a look inside my pantry, the one in the garage and the one in the house. We're going to be revamping the pantry towards the end of the series, and I'm going to be getting it organised and ready for putting more food in for the forecast summer shortages. And we are going to be having a look at the top 10 pantry staples today that I use in my wartime cooking. If I didn't have these things in the house, a lot of my recipes wouldn't work because they were paramount really to a lot of the wartime recipes. As you know, if you've been here for a while, I cook mainly from my wartime cookbooks. Now and again I do have a night off and I just fancy a curry or a chilli or something like that, but I still make it from scratch. We do eat out now and again, which people did during the war, but largely, on the whole, I would say 95% of my meals and my baking and my bread comes from wartime recipe cookbooks, and not throwing anything away. I like to call my pantry the never-ending pantry because I always able to put a meal on the table. Now for me that is the sign of a good pantry and a successful pantry. If you can go to your pantry and you can pull something off the shelf and put a meal together that's going to feed either 2 or 4 or 3 or 7, then if you can stretch that food to feed more people, then even the better. So this series is hopefully going to help you to get a pantry organised. As I say, it's a 9-part series, but really there's only 5 different top 10s. The other 4 are going to be about organising the pantry, getting your pantry organised, getting your pantry ready. I'm going to be moving my garage pantry from the garage into the spare bedroom upstairs, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to be organising that as well in the last video. So that's what's coming up in May and June. It's going to be called the Wednesday Pantry Series. So if you want to keep up to date with that, do subscribe to this channel and do hit the bell next to the subscribe button, and put a allow all notifications, and that will tell you when I upload a new video. Apparently only 21% of you who are subscribed to my channel actually hit the bell. And maybe you're missing my videos, maybe you don't want to watch all my videos, but if you hit the bell and you want to follow this series, that'll tell you immediately when I've uploaded a video, so you can keep up to date and not miss anything. You may need a pen and a piece of paper, you may need a pen and a piece of paper to write these things down, and by the end of it, hopefully you'll have a good shopping list that you can add 1 or 2 items a week to your shopping, to start stocking up your own pantry. As you know, around the world at the moment, there are food problems, there are fuel issues, there are transportation issues, and right now governments around the world are warning people that they need to start thinking about having food in the house just in case there are gaps in the supermarket. So I'm not going to promote fear here. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to go down that road. But what I want to do with this series is equip you to be able to go out, shop get your pantry sorted out, and then you shop your pantry first, and then every time you use something you buy it again and top your pantry up, and that's how it works basically. So I will show you how to use the pantry as well, but the first 5 videos I want to do are, the first one today is your top 10 pantry staples. The next one next Wednesday will be top 10 fresh food staples. Then the third one will be top 10 dried and tinned staples. Number 4 is the top 10 baking staples, making cakes and biscuits and bread, pancakes, flatbreads, all that kind of thing is going to be in number 4. And then number 5 is going to be what you want to grow in your Victory garden to support your household for the gaps that are going to be in the supermarkets. So it seems to be that they're giving us plenty of warning. They're saying probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks we'll start noticing gaps. We'll start noticing gaps in the supermarket, and then towards the end of the summer, if this thing doesn't clear itself up with the Straits of Hormuz, then we will start noticing significant gaps in the supermarket. So this series is going to help you to navigate your way through that. Now, moving on to our top 10 pantry staples. The first one is flour. Now, no kitchen is complete without a good selection of flour, whether you're celiac or whether you're gluten-free or whether you just want to be able to bake good bread, good pastry. You need a good stock of flour. Now, whether that's rice flour, oat flour, I use ordinary bread flour, which I keep in these tubs here. I've got one for my bread flour, one for my plain flour for this one, and one for my wholemeal flour. Now I keep these in big tubs, they're airtight containers. You just flip the lids and they've got seals inside of them. And this keeps the flour fresh for as long as I need it to stay fresh. Probably I would say a good 2 or 3 months, but I use it before that. I use a lot of flour in this house because, as I say, I make my own bread, my own pastry, my own cakes, my own biscuits, crumbles. So I need flour. I need flour for making sauces. You're going to need flour for making gravy because corn flour is getting too expensive. So you're going to need to learn how to make pastry. Gravy with ordinary flour, which I will do a recipe for you. It's a really easy recipe. You will need flour, plain flour for that. Also for making your sourdough, potato sourdough starter, you need flour for that. For baking, I use self-raising flour. I always use self-raising flour. I don't use plain because I usually forget to put the baking powder in. So to make sure I get a good cake, I always use self-raising flour. If the self-raising flour is a little bit old, you can add 2 teaspoons of baking powder into it as well. But that's going to be coming up in the baking staples, the baking powder, so it's not included in this one. So yeah, you need a really good selection of flour. I use Carr's self-raising and plain. I use Carr's bread flour white, and I bought Matthew's wholemeal flour last time. Wasn't that impressed with that, but if I can, I'll pop links in the description bar below for you. As you know, I'm doing affiliate links now, so anything I use on this channel, I'm making available below the video. Doesn't cost you a penny, but just means that if you buy through that link, I earn a little bit of commission off Amazon, but it doesn't cost you anything. So if you want to use the links in the description bar, you can. And you can buy the stuff that I buy for the prices that I buy, and I just earn a little bit of commission off Amazon, and they pay me, not you. So yeah, I always buy my flour through Amazon because I find I get the cheapest prices. But you can also do a subscribe and save, where you can save like 5% or 10% off a reorder. So say you want it every 3 months, you can set it up to subscribe and save for 3 months, and it'll get delivered to you every 3 months. The money will come out your account every 3 months, and you'll never run out. So I find that's a really good way to do it. So that's what I do with my flour, my bread flour, my plain flour, and my self-raising flour. So I never run out. Without flour in your pantry, you will struggle to put good food on the table. So always have flour in, because if you've got flour, you can make cakes, you can make pies, you can make savory pies, sweet pies, you can make pizza bases, you can make biscuits, cakes, buns, bread. You'll never ever be without something on the table, even if it's just a piece of bread with a bit of butter on. So always have flour in the cupboard. The next one is Marmite. Now, Marmite was promoted during the war to add extra vitamins and minerals to your diet. Now, I have a little bit on a spoon every day, and that just boosts my vitamin intake. It is a yeast extract from vegetables. It's not meat. The other one is Bovril, and I think that's beef. Now, they were both out in the First World War, I think, or just before, to ward off So in the trenches and places like that. So yeah, Marmite is a great addition. You can season your gravy with it. You can season your casseroles with it. You can add it to soups. You can add it to stews. You can add it to stock if you want to make your own stock for anything. It's just a really, really good thing to have. And it will add extra vitamins and minerals. If fresh food is in short supply, say there's not many carrots around or not much fruit around and things like that, this is going to be a really good addition to your diet. And a great staple to have in. Now, I managed to get, it was the 500-gram jars, and they were £5.99, I think, in Tesco's and Morrison's. And this one works out at £3.99 in Tesco's, and this is 250 grams. So I managed to buy a couple of the bigger jars. So I highly recommend that. Dried milk, where are we? If you can get the full cream, it's called Nindo or Nando or something. But well, that's sugar, that's the wrong one. I buy mine in the co-op, but I'm going to get my other one in Tesco's because at the moment they've got it on offer, and I think it's £4.55 for a kilogram tub of milk, where I pay 340 grams for £3.99 in the co-op. But this is only skimmed, but it's good to have in because if you're low on milk or your recipe asks for milk and you don't want to use your milk, you can put a few spoonsful of this, add it to the water that you're going to be using in your recipe, and that'll just add milk then to your recipe. You can use it in your cup of tea, you can use it in your cup of coffee, you can use it in puddings, desserts, smoothies, anything really. So it's always good to have milk on hand if milk is going to be hard to come by, because that's one of the things they're saying is going to be short on the shelves going forward is milk. And I think that's because of the processing in the plant uses carbon dioxide or something. So yeah, it's good to have dried milk powder in store. And that would have been part of the ration during the war as well. I think you would have got a tin a month for your war ration. So it's always handy to have in. This is a tin from the war, by the way. I found it on eBay. So yeah, it just reminds me where my milk powder is. Right, next. The next thing we have is oats. Now, I can't survive without porridge oats. Again, this is something I buy in bulk. I buy one called Morn Flakes, and I buy it online. I don't buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on Amazon for £32.50, I think, for this bag for 25 kilograms. Now, 25 kilograms, I've still got two 5-kilogram tubs left, and two jars like this left. And I bought it back at the end of September. And what are we now? Going into May. It's May, isn't it? So it's lasting forever, absolutely forever. I used to buy it in a small bag for £3.50 in the health food shop. It's now gone up to £5 a bag from the last time I bought it last year. So I'm going to stick with buying it in bulk. I can't remember where I buy it from. If I can find it, I'll pop it in the link in the description bar below. But if you want to buy it on Amazon, I'll also pop that in a link in the description bar below. I think there's only £1 or £2 difference. There's not a lot discrepancy between where I buy it from and Amazon. But I just prefer to buy it from where I buy it from. Because I want to get the £2 off and I'm stingy and I want my £2. So oats, you can use it for porridge. I use it for pancakes. I use it for flour. I use it for crumbles. I grind it down slightly so it's coarse and then put it on the top of a crumble with the ordinary flour and the butter and the sugar. I've been known to put it on a savoury crumble with mint, like a moussaka kind of dish. Where I use red lentils. I don't use mince. I don't eat beef mince. We don't eat that in this house. And yeah, it just adds a nice topping with the cheese on the top. And I'm actually going to use porridge oats tonight because I'm making cauliflower and potato bake, which is another wartime recipe out of the We'll Eat Again, Eating for Victory book. So yeah, porridge oats, they're great to have in the house. As I say, you can have them for toppings, for cakes, for biscuits, for... I made carrot cake with porridge oats the other day. I grind some oat groats down, which is the actual oat berry. I ground it down in my flour mill. I've got an electric grinder that grinds down wheat berries and oat berries. If I can find a link, I'll pop it in the description bar below for you. and it just makes life a lot easier and a lot quicker. I have got a hand crank one as well, so I'm prepared if there's no electric. But it just means then that I can use it for flour. So I made pancakes with it the other day, and fiery stem ginger carrot cake, and it was mwah. So I'll make a recipe for that for you at some point. So porridge oats, definitely worth having them in the house, but a good all-rounder, and it saves you on flour as well and adds a bit of a gritty texture to everything, which sometimes you just want a gritty texture when you're putting grated cheese on the top. Instead of using breadcrumbs or just flour, save your flour and use porridge oats. It's lovely. Once they're ground down, they don't mush together, and it just forms a nice crust with the cheese on the top. So the next thing is sugar. I keep my sugar in this box here. I use different types of sugar. I use caster sugar. I use brown sugar. You can use molasses sugar. You can make your own brown sugar by putting molasses or treacle in the sugar and mixing it all together. I'm not sure whether you dry it in the oven as well and then make it. I'm going to look into how to make brown sugar because I love it, but it's just far too expensive. So in this jar here is caster sugar. I also keep granulated sugar in the house, and I also keep golden syrup in the house. This was £3 a tub in Morrison's, and this is, I think this one is 500, 907 grams. So nearly a kilo of syrup here for £3. And they were doing, I think it was 450 grams for 275. So if you can find that in Morrison's, grab it. It's definitely worth it. Next time I go to Morrison's, I'm going to get myself a couple more. So you want that for sweet treats. You want it to add to preserves. You want to add sweetness to cakes. And sometimes you just want to have it on top of some pancakes or on top of your porridge. So always make sure you've got syrup in. Always make sure you've got sugar in. Syrup is a good substitute to sugar. So if you don't want to use too much sugar, just add a tablespoon of syrup, and that does just as well as having sugar in your recipes. You can add it to your breakfast, you can add it to sweet treats, make your own chocolate, make your own sweets, coconut ice, that kind of thing. Add it to that. So the next thing I have on my list is dried fruit. I always keep a jar of dried fruit in this house. This one is a 2 kilogram jar. At the moment, it's got currants in it, but I use this a lot. I use it a lot in my baking. And it was recommended during the Second World War to use dried fruit in place of the fruit that was lacking in your diet. Because during the war, there was no bananas. Apples were hard to come by because you could only get them in season. There was no oranges. You could only get lemon juice in a bottle. You couldn't get lemons, couldn't get limes. Plums were seasonal, cherries were seasonal, strawberries were seasonal if you could get them. Because a lot of stuff they just didn't grow simply because it took too much time to grow them, and they wanted to concentrate on the vegetables and feeding everybody. So they recommended you had dried fruit in. Now I use this in a lot of cake recipes. I used it in my sourdough pancakes this morning because I've started having that every day since the last video. Have pancakes every morning now, and I have a little bit of dried fruit, a little bit of jam on the top, and a little bit of lemon juice, and that's just does me then for my breakfast. Then I'll have a sandwich for my lunch. So yeah, dried fruit, always keep it in, because dried fruit, as I say, you can use it to supplement your lack of fruit to get all the extra vitamins and minerals that you need, and use it in cakes and biscuits. You can use it in cookies. You could put water with it and smush them up and then make a syrup out of it to make cakes as well, to put in your Christmas cake. You can make mincemeat out of them for mince pies. There's just so many different things. You can add it to a curry to add a bit of sweetness to a curry. There's so many different things you can do with dried fruit that it's definitely worth having it in. I use one of these jars a month probably, for the two of us. And yeah, we just go through a lot of dried fruit. So if I was doing the point system during the war, probably one of the only things I would be getting would be dried fruit and pulses and my sugar, because I don't eat meat. We don't eat a lot of meat in this house. My husband is a meat eater, but I can't afford to buy it that often. So we probably eat meat once, maybe twice a week if we're lucky, maybe once a week. So yeah, Another thing I've started doing as well with my pastry, going back to the flour, is making sausage rolls and pies, and my husband takes them to work. And that was one of the things that was recommended during the war and is in the Eating for Victory book, is taking a pie with you to work with either last night's leftovers in it, or something wholesome and nutritious like sausage rolls. So I just buy the sausages from the supermarket, take the skins off, mush them up, make the pastry, slap it on the pastry, bung them in the oven. 20 minutes later, you've got sausage rolls. I made 6 out of 6 sausages the other day, 6 sausage rolls. And my husband's been taking that to work. So that's a good use of a store cupboard ingredient to make a good nutritious meal that'll feed a lot of people. You want a good selection of herbs and spices. Now, this is going to be the building block of your recipes. Yeah, you need the main ingredients to make the food, but you also need the flavour. So for cakes, I would say you want really to have ginger, you want allspice, and you want mixed rice. Now, from these 3, you can make any flavouring cake or biscuit or fruit cake, whatever it is you want. But these 3 spices are going to add flavour to anything. And also the mixed spice and the ginger, you can also add to your savoury meals. You can add them to a curry, to a chilli, to spice up a casserole if you're doing a one-pot meal. They just add a nice warming flavour to a winter meal. So I would always have them in the house. So mixed spice, allspice, and ginger. So that's that. Now, for your savoury meals, I'll do first the wartime ones, and then I'll add a couple of extras for you. So during the war, people used mustard powder and kept that in for making mustard and for adding to meals. So mustard powders are very handy. I think it's Coleman's that was around back then. I got this in the health food shop. But yeah, mustard powder, very versatile. You can make mustard with it to add on your sandwiches or to add into a meal. And it's very cheap and very easy to use. So mustard powder is the first one. The second one would be rosemary. Now I grow this in the garden, but it's handy to have it in. And yeah, it just adds flavours to meat, really, if you're going to be cooking meat. Or if you want to add it to pulses to get the flavour of meat without the meat, it's also good for that. Tarragon is another good one that I keep in. This isn't sought after very much and it can get quite expensive, but I love the flavour of it. And it's good in the winter to replace other things. I think it's parsley it can replace. So I have tarragon in, and you can use that in any meat meal, any roast dinner. Add it to your potatoes to add a bit of flavour to your potatoes. And mint is good for that as well. This is some garden mint that I grow in the garden of Gordon's plant. And that's also good to add to potatoes, and of course lamb, mint sauce, add into a cup of tea as well. But mainly potatoes, I think mint goes with, and lamb. But it's also good to have in just to add to a casserole and that kind of thing, because I like to add a few different herbs to my casseroles, and parsley. I grow this in the polytunnel as well. You can get the pots of herbs in the supermarket, ready growing, and I just use them and plant them up in the polytunnel. I get a good year's out of it for 70p in Lidl. And you can get curly, you can get flat, you can get mint, you can get rosemary, you can get sage. So I just buy the ones in the supermarket that you stick on your kitchen shelf and forget about. Plant them out in the garden and they grow perfectly well. So yeah, my list for herbs is going to be parsley, mint, tarragon, rosemary, and mustard powder. So they're wartime ones that would have been readily available during the war, and you could grow them yourself in the UK in a wartime garden. I'm sure you can in different countries as well, but I'm just talking UK because it's UK where I live. An additional one for modern day is basil and oregano, so you can add it to your pizza, you can add it to your bolognese, any Mediterranean dishes, you can add it to that, you can add it to fish. So yeah, basil and oregano as well. So they are my herb recommendations. The next thing I would also say is get yourself a good curry powder. I use garam masala. Now, there is a curry recipe, surprisingly enough, in the We'll Eat Again book. and the Eating for Victory book. So yeah, I keep garam masala in. So if you want to do some wartime recipes, that's a good one to use. It's got lots of flavour in it. It has in it coriander, cumin, ginger, black pepper, cinnamon, pimento, cardamom, bay leaves, cloves, nutmeg, star anise, and fennel. So yeah, it's a good one to have. I used it yesterday, and I made a smashed up chickpea with a bit of homemade mayonnaise and some garam masala, and had that on a sandwich, and it was absolutely delicious. It was lovely. It was a bit like a spicy tuna, but without the tuna. If that makes sense. But yeah, it was lovely. Anyway, I'm trying to get through these quick for you, so I'm not holding you up. We're up to number 9. Number 9 is dried beans, lentils, beans, peas, all that kind of thing. I've got my red lentils, which I got in Tesco, and this is a kilogram bag. And I think that was about £2.50 or something for a kilogram. Yellow split peas, great for soups. Red lentils are great for replacing meat. So another thing they're saying is that because of the carbon dioxide, meat is going to be short as well. And that because they used it in the slaughterhouses, it's going to put an effect on the animal slaughters. So it's going to be good to have a selection of different beans and pulses for protein. But red lentils I use in a cottage pie or a chili, and it just takes something you're going to use mince. Well, this just adds a mincy texture to the food and stops you missing the meat, to be honest with you. And my husband says to me now, I don't really recognise the difference between that and meat. So yeah, once they're cooked down and they're soft, if you soak them first for half an hour and then cook with them, soften right down and give it a nice meaty texture. So red lentils I definitely recommend. I've also made a lentil loaf, which is a bit like a nut roast, but made with red lentils. So I recommend that. Split peas, good for casseroles, good for soups. Very nice. You can make peas pudding with it, with the split pea as well. You can make split pea soup. So yeah, they're just a really good versatile herb to have. You do need to soak them for 10 to 12 hours in water. So soak them overnight. And then it says to simmer for 30 minutes and boil vigorously for 10 minutes. And they're cooked. But if you have a one pot, you can cook them in about 15 minutes, I think, in a pressure cooker. And cook a few up and then put them in the freezer. And then you're going to have a good stock and a good supply of protein in the house ready to feed everybody. Because the thing with protein is it fills you up. So what you want to think of when you're doing your pantry is, how can I make sure I can fill people up with the food that I'm cooking? That is my philosophy whenever I do any cooking, is, are they going to be full? Are they going to have eaten enough? Are they going to have had the good vitamins, satiated, and not want anything else, not be feeling hungry afterwards? So if you have a good dose of protein, you're not going to be hungry, you're going to be full for longer, and it's then going to take you to your next meal. Because during the war, they only had 3 meals a day. So this thing of just snacking on the run and eating on the run, there wasn't the food to be able to do that. So yeah, it's good to have those things in. They keep for years, and as I say, a great source of protein. These will keep for 15 years stored properly, 20 years stored properly. They don't last that long in this house, to be honest with you. We use them all the time. So also you can get these dried beans, and they used to be 59p dried peas, and you can rehydrate them, and then you can use them as marrow fat peas or peas pudding, peas in a casserole. So yeah, definitely worth getting these. As I say, they were 59p in Tesco. I don't know if they still are. I don't know how much they are. I haven't bought them for a while. But if I can find the price, I'll let you know. Right, last but not least is, if you're still here, macaroni. I always keep macaroni in the house. It is a great pasta. It's a good filling pasta that you can add to vegetable meals to bulk it out. Now, I make cauliflower and macaroni cheese, I make macaroni cheese as well. You can add it to soups as well, or stews, to bulk them out. And yeah, it's just a really good staple to have. You'll probably notice a few holes in my pantry, and that is because there is going to be other ingredients going into my pantry series that are going to come under a different topic. So if you're shouting out, you forgot the rice, it's going to be coming up in the dried goods part. If you're thinking, you forgot the tins, it's going to be coming up in the dried goods. If you're thinking, I've forgotten something, it's probably going to come up in another part of the series, because that is just my top 10 pantry staples for wartime cooking. You can put many, many meals together with this. You can make pastry, you can make cakes, you can make porridge, you can make pasta meals, you can make put it in casseroles and soups and stews. You can use the dried fruit in many different recipes. You can use these and make a few different recipes throughout the week. I mean, even if you've just got these two things here. For this one, you could make a nut roast with lentils. You could make a cottage pie, and you can make a chilli. So that's 3 meals. With this one, oh, you could also make a curry. So that's 4 meals. With this one, you could make a casserole. You could make some soup. You could make peas pudding. You could pop it into wraps with some spices. You could use chili powders and things like that, tomato paste. So you've got 5 meals without even thinking about it. For breakfast, you've got porridge. You could have porridge. You could have pancakes like I have. You could make pastries, and you could put syrup in them and fruit in them, like a Danish pastry, just made from ordinary pastry. So there's so many different things that you can do with just a very, very few limited amount of goods. So there was a lot in that, wasn't there, just for 10. But I'll go through the 10 again. It's flour, Marmite, dried milk, full cream, if you can get it. Evap or condensed milk as well, you want that. I forgot to cover that actually. Evap you can make milk out of. Condensed milk is great for adding to cakes because it's sweet. Porridge oats, sugar, dried fruit, a good selection of herbs and spices, dried beans, and macaroni. Now you've got a good base for a good pantry there if you have just those 10 things. So yeah, there's your shopping list to go out and have a look, start your pantry. And then in the next one we're going to do is your top 10 fresh pantry staples. So once you've got those 2 things, you'll then be able to put some good filling, nutritious meals on the table that cost pennies, cost you virtually nothing to make, virtually nothing to buy, and will keep you full for ages, and will keep the family happy and well fed and not afraid. Because that's the main thing, isn't it? Is we don't want to be afraid. We don't want to be fearful by going to the supermarket and seeing all the gaps and think, oh, what am I going to put on the table? No, get yourself a good pantry, a good solid starting point to be able to say, I've got food in the house. I can do this. I can do that. I've got plenty of recipes on my channel for you to copy, for you to follow, and be able to put some good meals on the table. There's also plenty of other people out there doing cooking as well. There's Rebecca at Railway Cottage. There's the 1940s experiment. There's so many different channels out there. There's a Real Vintage Doll's House. She does a lot of wartime wisdom as well. So there's plenty out there to find if you can spend the time looking. There's also lots of homesteading channels out there to be able to look at. So yeah, do get yourself a good pantry, even if it's just a cupboard in the kitchen, a cupboard under the stairs, a space in the wardrobe. Get yourself a pantry store, and then you'll be able to put food on the table and not have to worry what's going on in the supermarket, and not be distracted by all the negative that's coming out on the news. So I'm going to love you and leave you before I carry on talking, because I feel like I could talk about this subject for ages, forever, because it's a passion of mine. And if you've enjoyed this video, do like and subscribe. Do hit the bell. That'll tell you when you upload new videos. Because as I say, a lot of you haven't checked the little bell icon so they get notified about my videos, and that'll tell you when the next video is coming up in this pantry series. So coming up on Sunday, we're going to be having a catch up in the Victory Garden of what's been going on, of the seed snails that I've been doing, of how the raised beds are doing. And then next Wednesday, we'll be looking at the top 10 fresh pantry staples that you need to put in your pantry. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye for now. Bye bye.